Okay, that's one of the question I wanted to ask you, because this is really, really disruptive. Everybody, all marketers seems to say everybody search. So as long as everybody search, at some point they will search for whatever you have to sell. So everybody should do SEO, because if you don't, first of all, you might let your competitors go in front of you, or second of all, you might miss big opportunity. You're answering and you just say that absolutely no. And I was in shock, honestly, and I found it pretty revolutionary what you wrote on page 74. I'm sorry, I usually don't read books, but this one is really a special one, so I have to do it. Content is a tool. Not every tool is right for every scenario, and content is not always required. Ugh. For content marketers, I'm telling you, it's restaurants don't need long form content describing their ingredients just so they might get SEO traffic. Not every doctor's office websites need to replicate the medical library of WebMD. Small service-based business do not need a blog, blah, blah, etc., etc. This is really like, please, I know you just explained a little bit, but go deeper into this one, because it's killing all the conception we have that each one of us should recommend any type of business, small or big, to be online and to do SEO at some point.
So you can do SEO. You can do it. You should do SEO for your name. If you're a service-based business, you would be foolish to not have some way that people can find you. Now, the truth is, when it comes to service-based businesses, there are opportunities where you're already going to be found and you're going to be competing with those channels that exist. So for example, I don't know, I assume Yelp exists in France, but if you're a restaurant, Yelp will likely show up very high. So instead of competing with Yelp, make your Yelp that is already showing up very high be as best as possible. That's the same organic channel. I wouldn't put all that money and effort into beating Yelp. The same goes for Google My Business, the Google Maps pages. It's already going to show up very high. Don't put the effort in building a great website that may not be as good as it should be when this is a better opportunity for you. And then the same goes with like how you present that content. So you can actually lose the business if you've done it wrong. So for example, I was moving and I was looking for movers and I looked at moving websites and I didn't want to hire them anymore. I didn't want to call them. Seeing, people not wearing shirts, throwing furniture around on the websites, that did not sell me. Now, if I would have seen their Google My Business page and there would have been positive reviews and just a phone number, and then I would have called and they would have been nice on the phone and had good pricing, I could have gotten the business. So I wouldn't start always with the default of, oh, you want to go on the web, you need a website. The same, and I always forget some of the things I wrote in my book because it's been a while since I wrote the words. But when it comes to doctors' offices, the doctor should put information that the users are looking for. That's the product. What are the users looking for? The specialties, maybe some of the hospitals they practice in, the hours they're available, their speed at which they can get people in and out of an appointment. Those are the things that make them want to call. Writing out a description of symptoms and diseases on a global scale, that doesn't make any sense. Like, let's say COVID, writing out what are the symptoms of COVID. Everyone knows the symptoms of COVID. That is not your SEO approach. If you want to say, I treat COVID, then you want to say where you treat it and how you treat it for that geographic area. Again, you don't want to list out the symptoms and the recommendations that already come from the government. That is not SEO. So that's what I mean when I say not every business needs content. Think about what your business needs, and that's the content it needs. Don't think about, and we talked earlier about the keywords. Well, I'm doing this as a business. I'm a doctor's office. I'm a mover. I'm a restaurant. Let me go to the keyword research tool. It told me these are the words I use. This is the content I write. I would not start with that as the beginning.
Okay, but in your case, what you're saying is that you might not need this type of content for SEO, but in your case, we might need a YouTube channel or Instagram page to show better. I don't know where in my location I treat COVID and how do I do it? Because I don't know, I do it like under the sun and next to the beach or whatsoever. Would that be relevant in terms of marketing? Would you be something as an SEO consultant you would truly recommend to your customer, not doing SEO, but run more for a YouTube channel or whatsoever?
Absolutely. 2/3 of the conversations I have with prospective clients, I tell them not to do SEO, and I send them to friends and and other
That's
agencies,
crazy.
or I send them back to the drawing board and tell them to think about their marketing, because it doesn't serve my purposes to go and sell them something that's not going to be beneficial. So if I don't do video, I don't have any expertise whatsoever in video, but if someone is marketing to Gen Z and TikTok is their channel, why would they create SEO? If Gen Z is not looking for them on Google and TikTok is their channel,
Okay.
then they stay there. So SEO has to be thought of as a marketing channel. You don't have to do it just because it exists. And there are many marketing channels that no one takes advantage of because they don't really make sense. Like, for example, I wonder if a lot of businesses are even thinking about magazine advertising, something that used to be popular, but they're not. Billboards, TV ads. Yes, there are businesses that do it, but not a lot of the businesses maybe that listen to this podcast are going to be doing that. Those channels exist. You don't have to do them just because they exist. The same applies to SEO. You're only doing SEO if there's an audience there, if there's a reason there. It's not something you should just do. Again, the challenge might be, well, it's free, I should just do it. We'll do the basic, have a website, make sure you're visible for your brand, but I would stop right there unless you have an answer to your why.
Okay, but then what do you do when, and that's something you mentioned in your book, when you create something that doesn't exist, so that by definition is not searched for? I interviewed Ren Fishkin a couple months ago, and he gave this example of Airbnb, who at the very beginning, I think it would have been a great example also in your book, because I think it's a little bit the same approach, product like SEO approach. Nobody was searching for what they were doing. So at some point, if they came to you and said, do we need SEO at the very beginning? Would you have to tell them, no, you don't need, or would you help them thinking of an SEO approach, meaning your idea is so great that it can scale by himself, and just by letting the users create the content for you?
That's a great question. And the answer to that question really depends upon the size of budget. So if Airbnb came to me and said, we've just gone public and we have tens of millions of dollars just sitting around waiting for marketing channels, should we invest in SEO? Then I would say, well, it won't really dent your budget if you put a couple $1 million into building a great SEO channel around people staying in other people's homes. So when your other marketing channels have convinced the audience that this is a good idea and they search for it, they'll want to convert. Now, if Airbnb had not raised a lot of money and they did not have a big budget, and they were considering, well, should we spend this money on doing YouTube videos explaining why this is a better place to stay on vacation than a hotel? Or should we spend this money on creating content around people searching for stay in someone else's home? I would absolutely recommend the YouTube video, because that's going to create demand. That's going to create awareness. That's going to help convert. Now, that applies for every single business. I had conversations with really, really large B2B companies. They didn't really care whether they put ads on subways or put ads on buses or put ads in airplane magazines. Didn't matter. So for them, build an SEO channel. Maybe it'll work out, maybe it won't. They won't really miss the money. But if someone is resource constrained, if it's a question between should I do paid advertising or should I do SEO, do paid advertising. Is it a question, should I hire an engineer to improve my product, or do SEO, hire an engineer to improve the product? And if it's a question of, should I really, really invest in my own business? Should I hire an HR person to retain my employees? Then you can evaluate that and say, well, what is my expected return and cost savings and ROI in growth and revenue if I do this versus SEO? Put those numbers down. Again, it should not be a default just because it exists.